Hey guys, this is Alfred back with another video. Today I want to talk about my favorite Ayato team comp, which is the Ayato Tazer team comp. This is by far one of the strongest team comp for Ayato himself currently in the game. So without further ado, let's begin with this guide. So first of all, let's talk about how this team comp works. So our main DPS, our main driver for this team is Kamisato Ayato. He'll be doing most of the work in this team, whether by that being his skill or his burst. He will still be doing a lot of damage on field or off field. So basically how this works, Ayato will be slashing away. We have Beidou's shield. Her burst is so strong with Ayato because basically how it works is not only it provides a shield, it also provides additional electro damage whenever a character uses a normal attack or charge attack. And as you know, Ayato attacks really fast in his skill, so this is a really good additional damage that Ayato will be dishing out on top of his Hydro auto attacks. With Constellations, especially Constellation 2, you'll be hitting more than one target, and trust me, this is so much damage, especially in the current Spiral base where there's many small enemies that you need to hit. This C2 for Beidou is really strong, and obviously C6 is also really strong for Beidou herself. So now the only downside to Beidou is that her burst CD is pretty long, it's 20 seconds, and her energy cost for her burst is 80. However, normally the downtime is like 5 seconds because you can see the duration here is 15 seconds, so you have additional 5 seconds to try to get back her burst. To counter that, we will be running in Electro Battery for her. I recommend something like Raiden Shogun or Fischl. Both of them have different rotations, so I will be going through that later on. So after those three characters, the final character that we'll be using is an Anemo character, something to swirl Hydro or Electro, either one is fine. So we just put an Anemo character there or the Viridescent Venom buff that we'll be talking about later on. So for builds, let's start off with our main DPS Ayato. His best in slot is definitely the Haran. I mean, this weapon is literally made for him. If you don't have the Haran but have any other 5-star weapon, best in order is Primordial Jade Cutter and the Mist Splitter, so those two weapons are pretty strong, but generally speaking you can use any other 5-star weapon, is fine as well because of the high base attacks that it provides. For free-to-play options, anything with a crit stat or attack main stat works. The Black Cliff is a really good weapon for him. Lion's Roar can also be good, or any attack based weapon. The Flute also works. Probably the best weapon for him is the Anemona Kageuchi because he has a really high base attack and has a really high attack percent stat that he also gives on it, so that's probably the best 4-star. It's also craftable, so it's a really easy to obtain. And if you have ER issues, which should not really be a problem in this team, you can run ER stats as well on your weapon. It's completely fine and it's up to you if you don't have anything. For artifacts, a really common misconception is thinking that the Echoes of an Offering is a good set on Ayato. However, it's not a good set at all. So basically how the set works is there's also an RNG factor, so on top of wishing for this character, which is already RNG, you still need RNG in his gameplay, so that's not good at all. So this is something I don't recommend. This is because that this makes his build really inconsistent and his damage output will be unreliable at times. When you need him to hit hard, sometimes he won't even hit. Therefore, I do not recommend farming for this set at all. Rather than that, you should be trying to focus on building either the 4-piece Heart of Depth or the 4-piece Gladiator right here. So these two sets are really strong on him. This is because that on top of the 80% that it gives, you also get this additional stat right here. For example, Gladiator, you get an additional 35%, and for Heart of Depth, you actually gain an additional 30% for 15 seconds when they're using their normal attack or charge attack. So both sets are very close, so it all comes down to your substats, so just pick which one that you have better substats on or any additional pieces that you may have lying around. Another notable mention, which is really niche for Ayato, especially in this team, is the 4-piece Thunder Fury. This is because you increase your damage, which is the electro charge damage, is what we'll be using, by 40%. This is very insane for Ayato. 40% is a lot, and on top of that, if you trigger such a reaction, you will reduce your CD by 1 second, and this can occur every 0.8 seconds. As you know, this is very insane. You basically almost have no cooldown on your E, maybe a little bit, 4 to 5 seconds in general, but basically you can just keep spamming it. And this is a really niche set. Not a lot of people farm Thunder Fury, so this is something not a lot of people will go. However, if you want to try something fun, something different, you can definitely go 4-piece Thunder Fury on Ayato himself as well. So for Raiden Shogun, it's pretty standard. You want something like the Catch or Engulfing Lightning on her, or any ER weapon works on her. And obviously her best in slot for artifact set is 4-piece Emblem of Sever Fate, no questions there. Try not to go anything else. For Beidou, it's a little different. For her weapon, you can go any weapon, attack or ER, based on what stat you need. Her weapon doesn't really matter on this build itself. A notable mention, especially in this team, will be the Rain Slasher. You increase your damage to opponents affected by either Electro or Hydro, which is very likely in this team that they will probably be affected by Electro or Hydro, so Rain Slasher is a really good option for Beidou herself as a weapon. However, if you don't have Rain Slasher, just go for an attack weapon or an ER depending on what you need. For her artifact set, her best in slot is the Emblem of Seraphit for the highest damage for her. However, if you don't have enough Emblem of Seraphit, I recommend the 4-piece Noblesse Oblige, because in this team, there's no one running the 4-piece Noblesse, so why not just use Beidou to buff your other character's damage? It also works as well. If you don't want to go with 4-piece Noblesse, you can also go 2-piece Thunder Fury, 2-piece Noblesse. It works for more damage for Beidou. And lastly, similar to Ayato, a really niche set, 4-piece Thunder Fury is also really good on Beidou for similar reasons to Ayato. Alright, so now for our Anemo character, I'm using Sucrose. The best install is Jean, but let me just talk about why I use Sucrose real quick. So for Sucrose, if you realize my team doesn't have a healer, so we need an Anemo character that can not only heal, but also apply Viridescent Venerer. So for this case, I will be using Sucrose. Obviously she doesn't heal, but right now there's a Catalyst weapon that allows any Catalyst user to heal, so you can literally make any Catalyst user a healer. And in this case, we can put it on Sucrose. So basically how it works, when you use your burst, all your other party members will gain HP for every 2 seconds, so a set amount of duration. So in this case, my prototype Emperor is at Refinement 5, so we'll be regenerating 12% HP at the end of the 4-second duration, which is pretty good. It's really decent in this team, especially when you already have a shield. You probably won't be taking too much damage. However, if you're going against the wolves that drain your HP, maybe this weapon won't be that good, but you have workarounds as well. Alright, so now that we're done talking about the character builds, let's talk about any substitutes. So the 2 core pieces that you must always have in this team is Ayato and Beidou. Without a doubt, every other character can be substitute. For example, our Electro Battery, you can either go Raiden Shogun or the free-to-play version, which is Fischl. If you don't have either one, it's really hard to run this team already. You can go something like Lisa, but it's really inconsistent, so I just recommend something like Fischl to Battery. Also, something to note is that if you're running either Raiden, Shogun or Fischl, your rotations will be different, so I will explain both rotations in the rotation section later on. For Anemo characters, you can go any Anemo character. The best in slot is definitely Jean, which I do not have in this account. However, you can still go something like Venti, Kazuha or Sucrose. If you're free to play, Sucrose is definitely the best in slot and sometimes can be even better than Venti and Kazuha because her swirling potential is pretty insane. So like I said, just go any Anemo character because all you need from them is the Viridescent Venerer buff. So now for rotations, I will be going through both the Raiden and Fischl variation based on what you have. So please feel free to go to which section you want to see. So anyway, let's start off with the Raiden variation. You're gonna start off by using Raiden's E. This not only builds up her stacks for her burst, you can also do additional electro procs on field as well. So after that, you're gonna use your Anemo character and swirl. After swirling, you can use Beidou's burst, followed by Ayato's E. One important thing to note for the Raiden variation, you do not want to use Ayato's burst. I know Ayato's burst does increase his normal attack damage, however you will need his burst later on in the rotation. So now after Ayato's E duration has ended, you can go ahead and use the burst that you have been saving up, and after the burst you can go ahead and use Raiden's burst and start auto attacking to start regenning everyone's burst while she is smacking people with her burst. Now the reason why you want to save Ayato's burst for Raiden Shogun is so that he can continue to dish out hydro damage even when he's off field if you realize, and this will make sure the taser damage is consistently spread out and there won't be any issues in your rotation and DPS itself. And now for the Fischl rotation. So the Fischl rotation is slightly different. The main difference is you'll have Ayato mainly auto attacking, and Ayato will have a lot more field time than the variation with Raiden Shogun for a really simple reason, because Fischl's already generating energy while Raiden Shogun has to be popped to in order to generate energy for the Raiden variation. But anyway, for the Fischl rotation, we're gonna start off by using Fischl's burst. This not only does initial damage, you also put Oz on the field to start dishing out damage and start regenerating particles. After that, you can go ahead and use Ayato's burst to start dealing damage as well, and swirl to swirl both hydro and electro. After you swirl, you can go ahead and use Beidou's burst followed by Ayato's E and start smacking people. By the time the Ayato's E end, you can swap back to your Anemo character and swirl again, and you can repeat the cycle from the beginning once more. Basically, this variation, you're gonna have Ayato mostly on the field for this one, so it's slightly different than the Raiden Shogun. However, you should still be able to have a smooth rotation as long as your ER is really good. So now for pros and cons for this team. The first pro is that this team is really easy to use. This is because there's not really a steep learning curve in this team. As long as you learn simple rotations that doesn't have to be too complex, generally speaking, your ER management shouldn't be that bad. On top of that, even if you have really bad ER management, if you have good energy batteries, for example Raiden Shogun or Fischl in this team that has really good ER, trust me, a rotation wouldn't even be that hard. As long as you're just swirling in between your rotations and using Beidou's all before using Ayato's E. Generally speaking, the rotation should be fine. The second pro is that this team is really easy to build and really cheap to build especially. This is because you don't have to farm for the new artifact set, which isn't even good. You can already use artifact sets which you already have, such as the Gladiator or the HOD for your Ayato, and I'm already gonna assume that the other 3 characters that you're using in this team are already pre-built, as they have been in the game for quite some time already, hence this team is really cheap and really easy to build. The third pro is that this team is the strongest Ayato team in my opinion. It can even out damage the national Ayato team because of the amount of consistent DPS you're inputting. You don't have to swap between characters to batter each other, instead you can just do your rotation smoothly and your characters will be automatically battering for each other so that the rotations will be smooth. So for cons for this team, it was really hard to come up with a con, but I think the only major con and flaw I see in this team is that there's really a lack of healing. As you can see, I don't even have Gene, so I'm forced to put a healing catalyst on my Sucrose. However, obviously there are many workarounds in this team, and if you're really good at the game, you don't even need a healer in my opinion. Hence, it's not really a con, but it's a major con if you really would like healing in your team. So for the most important question of the day, should you invest in this team? In my opinion, the answer is a definite yes. If you have Ayato, this is definitely the strongest team and the cheapest team to build. It's not so complicated like the Ayato national team, where there's a very strict ER requirement for each character so that the rotation is smooth. So definitely try this team out if you have all the characters, and why not if you do not have all the characters, start building the characters as well. They're really good support characters that will be used for a lot of characters in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, please do leave a thumbs up. It really tells me that you like this kind of content and I should be doing more of this in the future. Comment down below what character or what team you would like to see in the future, whether it be Spiral Biz or a team showcase like this. And of course, subscribe so you can enjoy more content like this in the future as well. And with that, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.